I'm Rod Miner filling in for Stacy Redmond. In this episode of Veterans in Transition, correspondent Paul Branus talks with Jan Brown, National Commander of AMVETS, along with Sherman Gillums, Chief Strategy Officer of AMVETS. Also, business correspondent James Crawford has an interview with Omari Faulkner, the military ambassador for MANTECH International. But first, she served her country faithfully for 27 years in the United States Air Force. She retired at the rank of Senior Master Sergeant. Sherman Gillums began his military career in the United States Marine Corps, where he enlisted at the age of 17 and quickly ascended into leadership, retiring as a Chief Warrant Officer. Paul Branus has this story.
We're pleased today to welcome two representatives from AMVETS. First, Sherman Gillums. He's Chief Advocacy Officer of AMVETS, also a retired Marine. Thank you for your service. Also, Jan Brown. She's National Commander of AMVETS and the first female commander, too, if I have that right, also retired from the Air Force. Welcome to you both. You guys are coming off a pretty good 2019.
We are. At our national convention this past year, in August, we had President Trump came and visit us and signed a bill for helping veterans. Any disabled veteran now has their student loans eradicated, and anybody that's 100% disabled will have their student loans eradicated. And that's an executive order that he signed at our convention this year. So that was awesome. We're taking on a big project this year. We're taking over the biggest motorcycle demonstration ride in the country. It will now be called Rolling to Remember. The ride is to emphasize and keep bringing attention to the 80,000 plus POWs and MIAs that are unaccounted for.
Is that the Memorial Day weekend?
Yes, Memorial Day weekend ride that leaves from the Pentagon and goes to the down to the Lincoln Memorial. We're closer to waist deep in that right now. It's a pretty big project to take on and to coordinate, but we're very working really hard on it, and I know it's going to be a great event. We have a partnership with Lowe's now, which encourages people. They are providing scholarships to anybody that, any veteran that wants to go into the trades, which is a big thing. They're losing people in the trades, electrical, plumbing, carpenters, etc. And they're also doing what they call veterpreneurships, which they're a grant for somebody that has a business plan that is in the trades and will help them start that business. So it's a lot to keep track of.
Sherman, I wanted to ask you, your community advocacy is so important. That's really sort of at the core of what AMVETS does, isn't it?
Well, it's at the core of what we do and has been for our 75-year mission to ensure people who serve in the military, when they come home, they have a shot at good quality of life. Today, we're having a problem with veteran suicide that for some reason a solution has been evasive for years. We can't figure out why men and women who serve, they're proud people, they're strong people, they're the most qualified individuals mentally and physically, yet something becomes broken in that service experience. We know that women are 2 times more likely than non-veteran women to take their own lives. We know that older veterans from the Vietnam era and further are more likely to take their lives, and it's a host of issues. Chronic pain, which involves access to care. For women, oftentimes it's a constellation of issues, having to hold down a household, get good employment. Younger veterans are also having that problem. So we're seeing across the gamut of demography that veterans are not adjusting well. And AMVETS has long provided services such as benefits access, healthcare enrollment, assistance with jobs through our career centers. But now we've got to take it up a notch, and one of the commander has challenged us to, as an organization, figure out a way to hold the government more accountable for some of the healthcare problems we've seen. We see hearings on Capitol Hill where we get reports, and it feels like nothing's changing. So we've had to be pretty aggressive on the problem of veteran suicide, and the ways we do that are through partnership with Lowe's, where new job opportunities are created, and other aspects of being a veteran that AMVETS has long stood on, now we have to find new ways to reach this next generation of veterans.
You know, the issue of suicides, if we could focus on that, you know, I think only about 1% of Americans actually wear the uniform of this country. So there are a lot of Americans who are disconnected from really what is going on here. But the suicides is an issue that most people are aware of. And what is the number? It's what, 15, 20 a day? Is that the right?
We like to say that any number is too high. The average through the research has been about 20 a day. That includes active duty service members and reservists. But when we get stuck on the number, that sort of sets a false goal, because we don't want to have 18 a day or 15 a day or 10 a day. We want to make it less likely that a veteran is going to commit suicide, irrespective of the number. But the averages are about 20 a day, which is really clustered throughout the year. Some seasons it's higher, some seasons it's lower. But if you count them all up, we're talking about over 6,000 people who have served are deciding that it's better to die than to live.
Tell me the one or two things that would help the most to get rid of this problem.
Train family members to spot the red flags and intervene earlier. And then when they turn to a system like the VA for help, ensure that the VA is held accountable for providing that care, providing it timely, not making it difficult with bureaucratic paperwork, administrative issues, eligibility questions. Make it easy. That's how you stop suicide.
You just said a minute ago that things are not getting better. You feel like they hold these hearings and so forth, but you feel like there's not been a lot of progress. Why?
One, we're still having trouble figuring out who's responsible. Some people say it's the government. I say it's local communities like our AMVETS post, where our commander has challenged our posts to be the frontline eyes and ears for veterans who may be in crisis and intervene at that point. So we have an online training program that our commander probably announced. She challenged our posts, our 1,000 posts, to take that training and become frontline advocates in this problem.
You know, the more people that can recognize the symptoms and have a way to refer them, or, you know, and it may not be somebody in crisis, but just somebody that's, you know, people that are going to commit suicide are not always in crisis. They're, you know, but you're going to see things, and they may tell you, and we need, you know, like at our small post, you know, the whole reason that we actually got a building and opened a canteen was because I was hearing from veterans that they needed a place that they could go and talk without judgment, without, you know, people questioning, you know, their ethics or morality because they've killed somebody, you know, in war. And I think people, or that, you know, they can admit that they were scared or that they have a problem. And we found that, you know, I used to bartend, and I'll still do occasionally, but the people will sit there and talk to me, just, you know, be the two of us in there, and they'll just sit there and they'll open up after a while and get them referred to the right places and get them the help that they need. And it's not one cure fits all, is what we really need the government to understand, that it's not just, you know, we'll send you through this program in the VA, inpatient program, and when you come out, you're cured. It doesn't work that way.
The medication.
Medication. I've been a huge proponent for years of complementary and alternative medicines, because a lot of the problems, I think, that may end up resulting, and it's just my opinion, but over-medication, people over-medicate, and then they either get addicted or they take too much and they accidentally commit suicide. So there's got to be other ways. We offer Tai Chi at my post through the VA. They provide an instructor, I provide the space. It is my hopes that by this time next year, I'll have my yoga instructor certification, so that we can do that at the post, whether it be chair yoga but just, you know, exercise, pain management, just different ways of dealing with the issues that we're having, as opposed to a prescription.
Well, I did want to talk also about some of the more positive things. It's obviously a serious issue, but the issue of job training obviously is a huge thing too, something that can help a veteran coming back from deployment get assimilated back into their community, also if they're separated from service. And you mentioned Lowe's, but that's just one major corporation among many that is helping. FedEx, Starbucks, Walmart, on and on and on. Tell me about sort of the role that, and not just big companies, but local companies are helping too.
We have career centers throughout the country. Our headquarters is here in the Maryland area. And we're not trying to put people just in, a minimum wage job. We're actually trying to get them lined up with careers, help them find careers, whether it be in the trades or whether it be in some kind of business, which will hopefully maybe end up having them start their own business, but giving them the training that they need, the tools that they need. We do interview training and resume prep. We provide interview clothes for people that maybe not have a suit. In my opinion, it doesn't matter what I'm interviewing for. I'm wearing a suit, and as a recent when I had a break in service and I needed a job, and quite frankly, I hired on as a laborer on a construction site because it paid better than anything in retail, because it was a government job, and I was probably the first laborer that ever came in a suit with a resume, but they hired me, and I stayed with them for like 5 years doing, different aspects of the job, but mainly quality control.
You know what I find interesting, when you go around the country, I travel a fair amount, and you talk to corporate executives, and they say, look, hiring veterans it's patriotic, yes, but it's also good for business because they make terrific employees. They say we have fewer problems with veteran employees. They show up on time. They bring in the skills that a lot of ordinary hires don't have. They make good workers. Right.
They make good supervisors too, because even though they may have been in the infantry or artillery, soldiers are trained in leadership skills also, because once you reach a certain rank, you're going to be in charge of somebody, so you develop management skills and leadership skills that, the average 23-year-old doesn't have, coming off the street.
And Sherman, you told me that some skills are sort of going away a few minutes ago. Tell me more about that.
Whenever I pitch to employers or try to make the business case for hiring employees, I'll ask them, if you don't want an employee who's used to showing up on time, if you don't want an employee who's used to taking initiative, in other words, performing things that need to be done without being told or watched, if you don't like an employee who inherently brings a high degree of integrity, we're used to being held accountable for what we do. If you don't want that kind of person, then don't hire veterans. But if you want people that make your business run even better, and this includes the spouses of veterans, because those spouses have to do a lot. They basically have to manage a small business when their loved one deploys, and it's not just a woman. It could be a male spouse, but typically we put the emphasis on hiring spouses and hiring veterans, because the more you put in your business, it imbues the culture a bit with some of those same attributes of a high performing organization, which is employees, no matter what level they sit, they take initiative, they speak truth to power, they make it a point to stand out and to feel good about their work, and that translates into a better product if it's a product business, a service if it's a service business. And as we know, it gets pretty competitive nowadays when you see machines taking over things like customer service and at the cash register, where when you have veterans doing those jobs, they do them well, great for customer service, respectful. So I would say that as the work environment shifts and becomes more competitive, you also have these young people exposed to technology, and they're flying drones, they're doing all kinds of things that call upon aspects of their intellect that don't get challenged when they go to college for 4 years and just simply slide into a job. Now, I'm biased, but I think that veterans make the best workers in this country, and I want to see more of them.
And these are skills that you're talking about that suggest they'd make great entrepreneurs too. So in other words, not just going to work for a company, but starting a company, right?
Well, like I said, if you hire a spouse, that person is normally dealing with budgets, managing people, managing different services, which essentially is a contractor situation. But I know that our leadership has been really high on giving veterans the opportunity to work for themselves, because what happens is they hire other veterans, and so you have a downstream effect by having veterans in charge of their own businesses and hiring veterans to assist them.
And what about companies that would like to get involved with AMVETS and go, this sounds great, I'd love to hire a veteran or two, I've got a couple of openings. Where can they go? What can they do?
They can call our headquarters, ask for the Career Center, or ask for me, I don't care, and we'll get them in the right direction, because it's not just this local area. You know, it's nationwide that where we're finding, and I know we have women veterans tend to have a higher percentage of unemployment than male veterans, and we're not sure where that's coming about. As I personally have never wanted for a job. If I wanted one, you know, I took a different path after I retired, mainly veterans advocacy. You know, we encourage employers, you know, to contact us if they're looking for people, because we have across the country through our career centers, we have a list of people that are looking for jobs that we can match up with, hopefully match up, you know, what they need, and look beyond what their skill set is, and maybe just take somebody on and train them. You know, just because they've never done it before doesn't mean they're not capable, because all military people are called upon to do things that they're not necessarily trained for. So, you know, you learn and punt, and you absorb quickly, and I think you'll find that most of us are pretty quick learners.
We talked about how companies can get involved. What about just ordinary citizens who say, look, I'd love to help AMVETS in some way? What can an individual do to get involved?
One thing people may not know about AMVETS is we're not government funded. Some people think we work for the government, we get our money from the government. We receive no federal tax dollars to do our work. So our programs have to work because it's individuals and their belief in us to provide us with the wherewithal. So the first thing somebody can do who's maybe not in an area where there's a post or can't volunteer for whatever reason, take $5, put it in the mail, go on our website. There are different ways to donate, but we certainly want the engagement. We have posts where they're pushing state laws, they're pushing county laws, visiting hospitals, and don't wait for Memorial Day and Veterans Day to do this. 365 days a year is the best time to volunteer, give your time. And the other is to hold your lawmakers accountable. If you hear about policies that are not being pushed through Congress fast enough, call up your senator or your House of Representative member and find out, why aren't you doing this for veterans? Why isn't care getting better at this VA down the street? We don't want to have a community where our veterans are suffering. So there's myriad ways to get involved. We essentially rely on the kind donations in the form of $1, but time and civil advocacy is also a big part of how we benefit from having folks get involved.
Well, thank you very much to both of you for joining us today. Just terrific. Sherman Gillums, he is Chief Advocacy Officer of AMVETS, a retired Marine. Thank you, sir. Also, Jan Brown, she is National Commander of AMVETS and the first female commander of AMVETS. Congratulations. Also retired from the Air Force. Thank you to both of you for coming here today.
He's an adjunct faculty member at Georgetown University and a public affairs officer in the United States Navy Reserves. And he is MANTECH International's Employer of Choice Ambassador. Correspondent James Crawford sat down with Omari Faulkner.
Tell us something about your personal background and military background.
So my personal background in the military, I think is very interesting and unique. I've never had anyone in my family to serve in the military. And after high school, you know, I went off to Georgetown to become a professional basketball player, which really didn't come to fruition. But once I came to MANTECH and saw so many different veterans, you know, within our government services industry, it piqued my interest a lot. So went to watch Georgetown play a basketball game on a Navy ship carrier maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, and met a lot of different crew members. And literally one of the captains told me that I should look into the reserves. And at that time, I thought the reserves were really more focused on former active duty members that would come back and drill once a month. I knew about the reserves, but I just, you know, never looked into it as much. And after that conversation, I did. And I wanted to kind of know what our servicemen and women do, and I decided to join the reserve. So today I'm a lieutenant public affairs officer in the Navy.
Tell us something about the various programs that you work in with veterans.
So some of the programs that I do with veterans, we call them kind of our veterans in transition programs. And what that entails is really going out talking to a lot of our active service members about the transition period. As we know, any form of transition that you see in life, it can be very difficult, whether you're transitioning from a stay-at-home parent to a working parent, or if you look at our military members who are, transitioning by the tens of thousands every single day into their civilian world. I mean, that's a pretty dramatic shift. So one of my roles is to go out, speak to them about the challenges that you can face and about the importance of getting out front of the transition. Because the sooner you start, the easier that transition is going to be. So that's everything. We're working with them on interview prep, resume prep, some of the things, as simple as, hey, going to a website to understand a company, understand the company culture, to see if that culture fits you, and what types of organizations will probably fit your background best. So if it's an area that I can help you find the best place to find your home, to find you a career that supports yourself and your family, that's what we do. And we try to do that all across the country throughout military installations and even at some of the universities as well.
So what do you think contractors should avoid doing when they're trying to attract veterans to the workplace?
One thing I think they should avoid doing is not engaging. We have, hundreds of thousands of men and women transitioning every single year. And those men and women have protected and served our country, with dignity and respect and with, honor and courage and commitment. So I think that all companies should really invest into getting out there, reaching out to our veteran community, and making sure that, whatever it is you do, you understand that the leadership skills that veterans come out of service with, that can, be a huge benefit for your company. I spent the last 3 or 4 days at a conference this past week, and they had multiple sessions where they were dedicated to military recruiting, retention, and also hiring as well, which are 3 key points that I think industry members should always look at and place a huge focus on.
If you were asked what are the top 1 or 2 things that veterans should do before they transition, what would you say? 1,
just be prepared, and 2, be confident. So when I say be prepared, that means going out, doing your research on the companies, understanding some of the pitfalls that you may encounter, which are all around you. So doing your best job to be prepared, which all of our men and women, they're taught that from the day they put on that uniform, the day that they're commissioned, is to be prepared. In regards to being confident for our military members, means that you serve the country. So don't let that be something that you kind of just push to the side, so to speak. Be confident in the fact that you served and be able to explain what you've done during that service, what skills that you've learned throughout that experience. Sometimes I meet military members that, they don't like to really talk about what they've done because sometimes they think it can come off negative because industry may not truly understand that. If you're sitting across from a person that doesn't know what a person who has literally went into a bomb and disassembled that bomb, that may not, you may not connect with that person really well. But I think there are ways that we can work with our military members in helping them to almost like translate what skills that they've had from the military and how they can bring those same skills to the industry. What makes me most proud about the work I do is the fact that it's for a company that truly believes what they say. We truly put the energy behind, supporting our veterans, whether it be internally or externally. Being able to do that on a day-to-day basis around the country, at universities, at career fairs, or just speaking to a group of transitioning military members, or even our veterans, who have been transitioned and just want to come together and talk about, maybe different companies, what we do and how we do it. Engaging with the veteran community on a day-to-day basis, it's just an honor. Some of the stories that you hear, some of the feedback you receive, just being able to be around people that have done extraordinary things really motivates me every single day when I wake up to continue to try to make sure that those men and women have a place and make sure that they are as counseled or as prepared and as confident that they can possibly be.
So since you're an athlete, you're used to teamwork. When you're in the veteran community, how do you find a new team over on the commercial side?
Absolutely. So when speaking to veterans in regards to going from one team to the next. You know, I think that is very, very important, and it's never easy. For example, you know, once I left the Department of State, I found a new team at MANTECH International, and the reason why that was so easy is because, again, I was very prepared. I knew about multiple different companies or different competitors, and you know, I researched the company. I looked at the board of directors. I looked at the mission statements, and I made sure that everything that I loved about the Department of State, that they were somehow interconnected in a way. So going from one team to the next, it's not easy. But again, you do find different teammates, and that's what I've kind of found here at MANTECH. It's the same way in the military. You know, you go to different divisions, you work with different service branches, and you have one mission, and it's about how can an airman and help a sailor, accomplish one main goal. So it's applying those same traits when you're looking to transition from the military to the civilian career.
That's all for this edition of Veterans in Transition. We ask that you like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram. If you have a story to tell, reach out to us at vetsinTransition.com. And remember, we all have a story to tell. Until next time.